Hey everyone, it's another week of Find Your Film. This is episode 108. I've never actually mentioned the number of our episodes because this is an arbitrary number. We've been doing this for I think a little bit over 2 years. Co-host Stunt Perk Bruce Perky. How long have we been doing this Find Your Film, which I almost said Movie Mainline? How long have with Movie Mainline, the previous title, and now Find Your Film, how long have we been podcasting? Me, you, and Eric Hangover Holmes. How long have we been doing this for, you think?
I think nearly 2 years.
Nearly 2 years. Eric Holmes, Hangover Holmes. Yeah, I'm sure you don't have a hangover. You are a teetotaler. I think you are Are you a teetoler, Eric Holmes, or is that the furthest from the truth?
I do total teas, but I also total Coors Light. So
Oh, very very punny.
various drink totaler.
Okay, and here's the thing. This is a bad thing this week. Actually, it may be a good thing because usually I'm doing all these intros, I'm talking, I'm slathering my voice all over this friggin' podcast. This episode, what is it, Bruce? 108. Episode 108 will be the Eric Holmes and Bruce Perky show because if you're watching this video, my nickname this week is Greg. Quote: I only watched one bleeping movie this week, Surzavasti, because there are other movies that I did see for other interviews coming up down the road. That is my really peasanty excuse. No, you know what? I'm not even going to do the class structure. That is my horrible excuse for only watching one movie this week. Bruce Perky, am I missing out a lot from the lack of movies that I covered this week? Are you and Eric excited about the crop of flicks you guys are covering this week?
You definitely missed out on some things, for sure.
I
don't know if you would have loved them all, but you missed out on some stuff, for sure.
I missed out on some stuff. Bruce Perky was absolutely vague. Eric Holmes, are you going to go the even vaguer route? Am I missing out on some of the movies you and Bruce are going to just put your proverbial X on? X marks the spot on. Anything really exciting that you're really excited about to talk about this week for On Fire Film?
There's one I'm not particularly excited about, but there's one that you missed that I think you would have been particularly excited about. So
Okay. Well, I want to hear Eric's really honest opinion on the movie that you probably did not like. Thank you for watching that movie and tell me why I'm going to really enjoy this movie. Okay, so anything else before we start? Anything? Look, I have here on my Google Doc notes, we need to have some very quick reactions because we have a lot of films to get to. Eric Holmes, quick reaction on the outfit. Remember, recap, Bruce Perky gave it 5 stars. I gave it 4.5 stars. Our brothers in arms, Anderson Cowan, did not like the movie as much. I think he gave it like 3 or 3.5 stars, maybe even 3 stars. The outfit starring Mark Rylance. How did you feel? Quick reaction on the outfit, which you saw in theaters, I believe, right? Or
yeah,
did you see a screen?
well, so I saw a movie that we'll cover later on this episode, and I got there way early. So while it's waiting, I went and checked out a bit of the Batman because it was playing in one of the other theaters, and I was like, this didn't look too bad because my expectations got really low to that, and I was like, you know what, screw it, I'm going to check out the Batman, and I went to go check it out, and I missed the showing, but the outfit was playing. So I was like, well, hell, I'll check that out, and I checked it out. I'm kind of where Anderson is on it. I think I liked it a little bit more than he did, but
why did you like it a little bit more than Anderson did? Anderson's complaint was the outfit was too stagey, too artificial for him. He gave it a mild recommend, but you liked it a little bit more.
I see that. I didn't have a problem with that. This felt like a kind of like a Guillermo del Toro kind of setup, even though it didn't have like it didn't have the fantasy elements that he usually has in his movies. What threw me off was because you guys kind of compared it to Windfall, and I was trying to figure out what that was. I was like, these are like wildly different movies, but I think just because they're both set in one location.
Mystery, suspense elements,
yeah,
the ramping of the tension.
Everyone was calling Windfall Hitchcockian, and I was saying, well, this is more Hitchcockian than Windfall was. So.
Okay, that makes sense then. Like where Windfall, like I really liked the beginning, I really liked the end, and it slowed down a little bit in the middle. This was the exact opposite. I really didn't like the beginning, got really good in the middle. It ended great, and then it ended again. I was like, stop, no, stop. You're good, stop. But overall, I think the movie was pretty good. Probably give it 3.5 stars.
Okay.
I think had they stopped the movie at that first ending and then go, you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
If they would have stopped at that first ending, I think this probably would have been a 4-star movie for me. But as it is, it's a good movie. It's definitely worth checking out. And Yeah.
I agree with you,
Good
Eric.
times, great oldies.
The ending was a little bit more, why don't we just throw the whole kit and caboodle with the outfit? It's one movie up to a point, and then they had to slather it with just that extra ending, which, Bruce, I think you gave it 5 stars, so you were fine with that extra cherry on top of the cake.
Yeah, and I acknowledge this is one of those movies that it probably isn't going to be that for most people. It hit me at the right moment, the right time, the right mood, and it just kind of worked for me. So, and who knows, that might, like I said, I think even in my original review is this might be one that goes down a little bit on rewatch because I might hit another time and go like, it was good, but it wasn't that good. But I still think it's definitely solid, even if it doesn't hit you like it did me. I think it's a solid movie.
I'm a very lonely guy. I wish someone would hit me at the right moment and at the right time. I'm a little bit tearing up. Before I tear up and cry, Eric Holmes, I actually inadvertently got right in front of you. What did you want to say, Eric Holmes?
What's the? I don't know the name of the actor. The name of the actor that's the right hand man, the gangster guy that's in most of it.
Johnny Flynn. Johnny Flynn.
Yeah. I really liked him in there. I felt that like they tried to get Charlie Hunnam, but they found the closest lookalike. But that guy was really good in that.
You mean they found someone who could act that looked like Charlie Hunnam?
Oh, here we go. Here we go. This again, Bruce has this memory that is just, I don't know whether it's insomnia, like that Nolan film, because he loves Nolan in movies like Tenet, right? Right, Bruce? If you're listening, and listeners, I'm lying through this entire thing, but maybe it's the Polaroids. I think, yeah, Bruce is going, what is Greg talking about? You're a huge Charlie Hunnam fan. You were berating me and Eric at least a month ago. We were saying, well, we don't know about Last Looks. We're kind of iffy on that. And you're saying it's the best film noir since Chinatown. Charlie Hunnam makes Jack Nicholson look like a fool. What was that about, Bruce?
I think I think what you have.
Yes,
it's conspiracy. It's a conspiracy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So the end of the year,
yes,
my number one actor on Letterboxd is going to be Mel Gibson. Why are you doing this to me? I don't need this.
Yes. Okay. If you're doing a recap, I've actually foisted Panama and Last Looks to Eric Holmes and Bruce Perky within the last month and a half. And whenever there's a Mel Gibson movie out, I am going to biasly request a link for both of them.
Why don't we just get it all in one move? And why don't you just get a Mel Gibson movie directed by Woody Allen? Maybe Roman Polanski can produce it. I don't know. Get some Kevin Spacey in there. Victor Salva, Kevin Spacey. We can get, we'll just kind of do the what do they call it? The full Monty? Yeah, probably the full Monty. I think that's the full Monty. What it is.
Yeah. Sometimes
we can get into that whole story.
Sometimes filmmakers and podcasters like myself are problematic. Speaking of problematic, Deep Water. Was it deep, Bruce? It's on Hulu. Should people take a drink of water and say, I love this? Adrian Lyne, I'm an Adrian Lyne fan. I liked his personally. A lot of people are talking about Fatal Attraction. I think was it Fatal Attraction or 9.5 Weeks. I'm thinking, I think, didn't he do a remake of the movie Lolita? Really like that version. Very interesting filmmaker. Hasn't done a film in years. Now it's with Anna de Armas and Ben Affleck. Mystery, thriller, erotic kind of thing. Any reason why people should watch this movie this weekend on Hulu?
Well, if you're really missing that erotic thriller from the 90s kind of spice, and yes, he definitely has a lane that he likes to stay in, and this is part of that. I think there's a lot of... this is an outlandish plot. This movie makes no sense. This movie is definitely logically not good. But
is it stuck in the 90s, or does it pay homage to the 90s?
I don't think it's especially stuck in the 90s as far as style or anything. I think just as far as kind of subgenre, you don't really get many of these anymore. This one is ridiculous. It makes no sense character-wise. It takes itself very seriously, which makes it more funny than it's supposed to be. And I had a heck of a lot of fun watching it, and kind of hate watching it, but love watching it for how goofy and ridiculous it is. And especially in the final third, there's some moments with Ben Affleck that are just... And Tracy Letts. Tracy Letts is in this, and he is so good as the guy who's sure that Ben Affleck is a murderer. It's trash fun. You could have a good date night with this, I guess.
Did this movie live up to your expectations because you were hate watching it? Meaning that you had to... Oh, okay.
I almost stopped watching it because I thought it'd be really boring, and then it started getting its little twists in, and I started figuring out what the concept was, which is basically, I can give you the basic concept right out of the gate, is that they have an open marriage. only she practices the open marriage and constantly is flaunting her mimbos in front of him. And then he is getting very angry between farming his snails and doing his photography. Yes, I said farming his snails.
Are
And
there are
he,
there loving Terrence Malick shots of farming snails in this movie? If so,
And
I'm
is
gonna
that a
watch it.
euphemism for something?
All right.
nope, he's actually farming snails. Um, there is some outrageously terrible dialogue in this, and it's very fun to watch and listen to. And just the whole thing is he murdering all these guys that are, stooping his wife? And she is just cruel too, like mercilessly cruel. And then there's the cute little daughter that they have that is just in scenes randomly. I can't describe it. It's very silly.
Do you think Anna de Armas and Ben Affleck knew they were making a trashy movie, and they said, let's go make a fun trashy movie"? Or because Bruce, you were saying this is a movie that it sometimes is unintentionally funny. Do you think they were making a serious erotic thriller, or were they in on the joke, like hopefully some people who enjoy this movie are?
I don't think they were in on the joke. I don't know. I mean, I think they were supposed to be dating at the time, and now they won't talk to each other, which is why there's no press for this movie. So I don't know.
Okay, who?
Maybe they thought they were actually living their lives in this movie, and that caused all the problems. I don't know.
Eric Holmes, what are the chances that down the road you're gonna watch the movie Deep Water on Hulu?
Very low. Because
Yeah.
I canceled Disney, so I will not be watching anything on Disney or Hulu.
You canceled Disney. That's like you canceling Disney. Eric Holmes is like any person canceling Disney, and I sound like a shill. It's like can't you just canceled the sky. You canceled the sun that shines its rays upon us. How dare you?
Yeah,
Eric,
well,
you mean I have to watch the Obi-Wan series all on my own?
yep,
You're making me do this.
I'm afraid so. Which
What?
sucks because that one looked like it might have been pretty good, but I cannot do it. I cannot do it
Wow.
when a movie studio donates money to for anti-gay causes and legislation. I cannot be a part of that.
Oh, very.
But I will say there may come a time where we do we get a screener for a movie that goes on Hulu that I don't know about at the time, so I might slip up. But at the moment, I will not be giving Disney money as much as I can help it, and as much as I know, because they got their tentacles and everything, so it's hard to know 100% what's what. But
Man of
that's where
principle.
we're at.
You're a man of principle. I admire that. One of these days, I will Google that term and find out what that actually really means. I also saw this movie called The Lost City, starring Sandra Bullock and Brad Pitt and Channing Tatum. I saw it with our mutual friend, our mutual friend Anderson Cowan. We saw it with the Century City Mall last week. Anderson ended up giving it more of like a 3.5 star review. And was sort of disappointed with it. I gave it a 3.5 star review, and I liked it. So it's weird how we both have different. We both gave it the same rating, but we both liked it in varying degrees. I actually liked it a little bit more than Anderson. You can actually check out our video review on Anderson Cowan's CCP YouTube channel. Anderson is the co-host of Cinematics. He is also our North Star. Obviously, next week in the cinematics world, Eric Holmes and Bruce Perky will be part of that because every single first week of the month we do a cinematics episode. All three of us, Find Your Film becomes sort of the quasi cinematics for a while. Eric and Bruce, are you doing some research on the first 2 weeks that might tantalize you for the first 2 weeks of April? Are you going to do your research? Yes.
I looked a little bit so far. I haven't nailed down which ones I'm picking for we're doing that next week, right?
Yes, next week, first week of April 1st.
The weird thing is, like, halfway through April, there's some really good ones coming out. It's like, oh, I was really doing the second half of April, but that'll be fun for you and Anderson to cover for sure.
Who knows? Maybe we'll just blow up the show. Maybe we won't even do the first 2 weeks of April. Maybe we'll just do Kirk Douglas movies for about 90 minutes. What do you think, Bruce?
Yes, let's do that.
Let's do that instead. I'm mentioning Kirk Douglas is because Eric Holmes, a little teaser, you have a Kirk Douglas movie for us. What made you want to watch a Kirk Douglas movie within the last week? Just on a whim?
Well, Angie Clark and I did a watch along. It was a month or two ago, and we did another one this week. And we're trying to figure out what movie. I was like, well, I haven't watched this. It was Kirk Douglas's first movie, and so fuck it. Well, we'll see how it is.
So Eric Holmes did it.
And it's weird to talk about Kirk Douglas on the heels of I canceled Disney because apparently Kirk Douglas has some shit that he did too. So
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
this shit's weird, but whatever.
Everything's weird. Yeah, everything's black and white, and nothing's black and white. Everything's gray. I love to live in the gray. Speaking of which, yeah, you have some gray as well, Bruce Perky. So we're gonna be talking about a Kirk Douglas film later in the episode. But first, let's talk about the one movie I did see this week, and that is called "You Are Not My Mother." It's available everywhere, meaning on digital, on demand, and in theaters this Friday. Very simple plot. You are not my mother. It starts off actually pretty scary. You see a baby who's actually going to be possibly burned in the middle of somewhere, like not in the forest, but somewhere outdoors amidst trees, and she's going to be burned in a ring of fire by her grandmother. And you're thinking, yeah, I believe it's a ring of fire, if I recall. You're wondering what's going to happen to this baby. Cut to maybe 16, 17 years later, that baby is now teenage young teenage girl. She has a little bit of a mark on her face. You're assuming that mark, that scar, is from that traumatic incident which occurred at the beginning of the movie. And you realize this teenage girl, she is very meek, very shy, very introverted, and understandably so, because first of all, her grandmother is a little bit unstable, a little bit irresponsible, and a little bit off. But if you think the grandmother's off, wait till you meet the girl's mother. We see the girl's mother actually laid up in bed, convalescing, and she can barely even drive her daughter to school. Usually, it's a grandmother's job to drive the daughter to school, so you automatically know within the first 12 minutes of this movie that the grandmother is pretty much a pseudo mom to the girl, and the mother is just, there's something wrong with the mother. Hence the title, You Are Not My Mother. As the narrative rolls on, we realize that this family dynamic, there is a reason, because there might be something supernatural amidst going on in this house among these women. And the movie also focuses on the life of the teenage girl's life in high school. She is bullied by several girls, etc., etc., etc. So that is the premise of this movie. I was really expecting that this was going to be a homer. I really was so excited to get the screening links for Bruce and Eric, because this horror film would feel like something that they would totally love, and maybe I would love too. I'm gonna give you my review towards the end of this, but oh my gosh, I was disappointed by this movie. This movie was a misfire for me. Let's start off with Bruce Perky. Are you disagreeing with my misfire take? And hopefully, maybe you might love it. I don't know.
No, I'm pretty much agreeing with you. I really wanted to like this movie like all the way through. I think the acting is really pretty universally good in this movie. I really like the girl Shar. Is that her name? I think.
Yeah,
Shar.
Yeah.
That's her character name, I guess. And I really liked her a lot. I felt like it was really leaning into something that's kind of been a thing recently, which is like the three generation of women. We had Relic, which we really liked, and of course Hereditary. And there's signs of kind of witchy folk horror maybe happening here. I wish it would have gone one way or the other. I wish it would have gone hardcore into the kind of witchy folk horror stuff and let us know what the rules were there, which I didn't feel like we knew. Or I wish it would have stuck more with the girl and kind of just her life. I don't think it had to have any supernatural. The bullying and her relationship in school with people, how she is treated based on her family. I thought that was interesting. And I almost thought that the whole like mom is, what is she, obsessed? Is she a witch? Is she just have mental illness? That all kind of seemed tropey to me, and that didn't work as well for me. I'm kind of with you. I mean, for me, it's probably 2.5 stars. It has a lot of qualities I really admired, but it just never quite took it in a place that was interesting enough for me.
It's so disappointing. I agree with you on the 2.5 stars, Bruce. Really good performances by everyone, but it just feels like you have all these really good chess pieces on the board, and it just depends where these chess pieces land. And for me, they just didn't land in the right places, even though it was buoyed by some really good performances and a potential for actually a really, like Eric would say, a banger of a storyline. Now, hopefully, I'm hoping maybe Eric is diverging from this and won't be agreeing with us. Eric, what did you think of You Are Not My Mother?
I'm kind of with you guys on this one. It started off good, and then it does the flash forward or flashback to the boring part. And I wish that trend would die. This is not the only movie that's guilty of this. But the idea that we don't know where to start the story, so we're gonna do a exciting thing at the top, and then now we're stuck with all the boring parts of the story. I did appreciate what they were trying to do with this. Unfortunately, Antlers did it so much better just a few months ago, and And I mean, I think this movie would make a good double feature with Antlers just because they're so similar. They use supernatural elements to kind of make commentary on other family and emotional things that's going on. And there was the ending didn't quite stick the landing with me, but there were some aspects of it that I really, really liked. Like the last third of this movie, I really started to get into. There was one part that was kind of, whatever, but there were some other parts that were, really touching, really heartfelt, I thought. And I wish the stuff that they did at the last third, I wish they would have had that same kind of care or whatever that was throughout the whole movie. I think if the last third was like the whole movie, I think I would have liked this a lot more.
Eric, do you think this movie slow burned itself to death, meaning that it took too long to get to that third act, which you really loved?
I don't think the first 2/3, save for the very beginning, the opening scene, save for that, I don't think the first 2/3 needed to go as long as it did. They kind of got the point towards the end of the second third. There's probably a better way to go about this story, because if you're going to flash forward, that's usually code for, okay, just you're prepared to get bored for at least a half hour. But I think if they had a better story, or maybe like I don't know, worked on the story a little bit, kind of tightened it up, I think this could have been really great. But yeah, the last third I thought was really strong. I just wish the rest of the movie could have been as strong.
Okay, so I gave it 2.5 stars. Bruce gave it 2.5 stars. Now, it's directed and written by Kate Dolan. What's interesting about this movie, Eric was mentioning the third act, which he enjoyed more than the rest of the movie. He was talking about that as a positive aspect. Bruce and I were focusing in on the performances, and Bruce liked some of the storytelling elements of this movie. Look, this Kate Dolan, a filmmaker, is talented, has potential, and I think it's one of these things. Just maybe I'm excited to see what her next film is going to do. If it's maybe she learned some lessons from this movie that she will move on for her next film. So 2.5 for me, 2.5 for Bruce. Final rating for you, Eric Holmes. What do you give it?
This probably would have been a 2-star, but I like the last third so much that I'll go 3 stars on this.
3 stars. 3 stars for Eric Holmes. Mild recommend from You Are Not My Mother. I'm actually happy that Eric Holmes gave it 3 stars. Very, very good. Again, available everywhere and in theaters this Friday. And now I'm going to leave this podcast because the rest of the podcast Eric and Bruce will be talking. And I apologize. Bruce, you take it off from right here. No, anyways, the next movie, and I'm really pissed. I'm really pissed. I'm going to swear, I am pissed I did not get to this movie, but because I got this movie to Eric and Bruce, and I was so, out of every single movie I've actually gotten links for, this is the one movie I was most excited about. It's a movie called StuntRock.
Ladies and gentlemen, sorcery. Is StuntRock. It's superhuman. Super music. Super magic. And super amazing. You'll be compelled over the edge of sight and sound, and under the spell of mind-boggling action and music, pushed to the danger zone. It's a death wish at 120 decibels.
Climb the highest heights. You fly the farthest flights. Living on borrowed time. Your life is on the line. To have a nap when the world is at your back. You must survive a test to be better than the best.
ultimate rush.
And it's in theaters Friday, and I saw a trailer of just cars exploding. There's a stuntman. There's a rock group called Sorcery, I think, and it's in theaters. 4K restoration of this movie that was made back in 1977. Nothing wrong with 1977, but it looks like a 1977 film, but 4K restored. And I'm thinking Eric Holmes would love all the action sequences with the cars exploding and going off, I'm sure, a cliff. Looks like a fun movie. So, Bruce, let's start off with you. StuntRock. Was this a movie that you're swearing to Greg? Like, Greg, why did you send me the screening link? So, anyways, yeah.
No, I was not. This, I mean, I can definitely get into some campy old school cheese. So for that alone, it's worth it. If you like that kind of stuff, you know, these revivals of, I don't know, pick your 80s action movie or whatever it might be, then I think you might be interested in this. I would also say it's probably one of the most accurately titled movies ever in the history of the world. StuntRock. I mean, it is exactly what this movie is. So I'll say a couple little things about it and then let Eric chime in. So
was it fun? Was it a fun movie?
It was fun, but there's definitely too much rock and not enough stunt for my taste. But the rock is pretty amazing, but there's a point where it gets a little repetitive. In other words, we get to see Sorcery play probably 6 or 5 songs completely, along with their wizard devil magic show that occurs at the same time, which is something to behold, I will admit, but very much something to behold. And then the other half of the movie is Grant Page, Australian stuntman extraordinaire, doing multiple things that will get himself killed and probably should have got himself killed. In the middle of that, there's like documentary footage of other stunts being done. It's a very odd movie, but mostly entertaining. It just could have been, I think this would have been perfect if it had been about 60 minutes long. Then it would have been a just get in, get out, give us all the best bits. And it could have, oh, and there's a really bad Dramatica linking story too, which is pretty fun.
Wait, bad as in good? Is the link bad as in...
It's good. I mean, all the link stuff is like your best bad 70s porn dialogue, probably. You know. All right, Eric, hit it.
It sounds like a 3-star movie for you, Bruce.
3.5. I'll give it 3.5. It was fun.
Okay, cool. Eric, I was mainly thinking about you for StuntRock, and I'm wondering did I completely miss a target on this one?
Well, the story, I'm surprised that there was a story to this. This is Sorcery playing songs, and then just when they're done playing songs, they cut to random stunts, and then Sorcery plays another song, and they cut to random stunts, and the stunts are really good too. Like there was more than a couple times where I'm like, get the fuck off there, you're gonna kill yourself.
Like how many times is he on fire?
Yeah. It's weird because this doesn't feel like a movie. This feels like almost like a documentary or like a musical documentary. Because first of all, I would love to see Sorcery live. Their stage show looks just freaking awesome. And I can't imagine what they like. It'd be awesome to watch them like hear it in Denver at like Red Rocks or something like that. Because they got that kind of real theatrical kind of stage show, similar to like Guar or Ghost or I hate to use the word Kiss because I hate Kiss, but with those type of bands.
Right.
John Michael Thor would probably be the best example of this because John Michael Thor, if you saw him live, he has a lot of theatrics and he doesn't really do stunts, but he does like strongman stuff. So this. Yeah, I mean, this easily
does the wizard work?
That almost seems like a missed opportunity. They should have had John Michael Thor as the band to this, but I guess the band that they got was just they had money to do the movie, and they're like, "We'll get a band, Sorcery, cool. You want to do it, sweet." And then I think that's how this movie was put together.
No, you know what band they tried to get?
What's
I read on the Van Halen. They tried to get Van Halen from 1978 when they were brand new. They didn't get him.
I mean, that could have been cool too. I think John Michael Thor would have been a really good mix for this kind of movie. But we got Sorcery, and they're pretty freaking awesome too. The music's decent if you like that kind of like stoner rock is kind of what they play. This isn't a movie for like this movie's been around for a while. I guess I haven't heard of it until just now. Apparently it's got a real big cult following or a cult following. I don't know how big the cult following is. So it's kind of hard to rate this movie because the people that love it, and the people that don't love it probably don't give a shit. So, Oh, go ahead.
I just had a thought. Well, first, two things. I read one thing where it mentioned this is one of the only movies that is a band movie, a action movie documentary, and a band documentary all at the same time. But I was thinking, you know what sorcery is? It's like as if Ralph Bakshi created a band.
Yes.
Oh, that sounds great. I'm actually excited to see StuntRock. I will definitely check it out. So 3.5 stars for Bruce Perky. What is your personal rating, just for you selfishly, Eric Holmes?
Well, Greg, you hit the nail on the head as far as what I think of this. This is a 5-star for me.
Yes.
Bruce mentioned Bruce mentioned like classic status. I think this is kind of that, but you have to be into that thing going into it. Like this is not going to be a 5-star movie for everyone. I think a lot of people are going to watch it, go, "What the hell is this shit? Fucking 1 star. I hate this movie." Other people are going to watch this movie and go, "This is the greatest thing I've ever seen. It's got everything." So it all depends on what your mindset is going into this.
This is the ultimate drunken party movie.
Yes.
You can have this on at a drunken party. You don't have to pay attention to it. You know, every so often you look over and someone will be on fire, or there'll be a wizard and a band, and you'll be like, "What the fuck?" And you're getting drunker, and you're like, and by the end of it, you're going to be like, so happy. Yeah.
Well, Eric, for people in that lane who like the music and the whole vibe, it's it worth watching the theaters with the 4K restoration? Like I'm sure you're watching it in your home theater, over at home. Just extrapolate. Would it be good in the big theater, in the big screen as well?
It would. I think this would be better, like, because I get to watch Goblin do a live score for Suspiria. This would be a good theater going experience for like that kind of thing, where like you get a bunch of people that are already fan, or like a Rocky Horror Picture Show sort of thing, where all the people in the theater have seen this movie like 100 times. They're in for it. Like,
would you buy a ticket, Eric?
Yeah. Yeah, but like as far as the theater experience, like I'm going by myself, and it's gonna be me and one other person in the theater. Probably not as fun, but I think this is like one of those crowd pleaser things. Like if you got everyone in the theater that's already on board, this might be like one of the best theater going experiences you would have. I imagine. I don't know because I haven't done it.
StuntRock is a 5-star banger for Eric Holmes. Again, the caveat, and we mentioned caveat again, the caveat is it's not for everyone. And I'm almost just as pleased that Bruce Perky, in his knowledge as a cinephile, actually laid down 3.5 stars for StuntRock as well. At least you had a good time watching it, Bruce. So that was a very, very cool thing. That is StuntRock, and we are closing. Yes, Bruce. Oh, you were just nodding.
I was going to say, if the 4K restoration better have it, if it does not have an interview with sorcery by Nardwuar, they have absolutely missed the boat. That's all I can say.
Bruce Perky just mentioned Nardwuar, the best interviewer in the world, in the universe. Nardwuar. If you don't know who Nardwuar is, look him up on YouTube. Nardwar. He does the best interviews. He makes me look like a little pissant. Okay, so we are closing out our featured reviews with this movie called Mothering Sunday.
Once upon a time. Once upon a time. Once upon a time.
Good morning, Jane.
Morning, sir.
Jay, that you?
Yes, madam.
I'll be on my own. 11 o'clock.
We're late, my dear.
Certainly, the pace you drive, we will be.
You're a writer.
Yes, I write.
And when did you become a writer?
I don't know.
Yes, you do.
What a glorious day it's turned out to be.
We're happy to wait a little longer for him.
And he's studying, is he? That's what he calls it.
Madam. What are you doing?
Studying.
And I'm here to help you study.
You're what I intend to study today. I could tell you all my secrets, all the things nobody says.
He's not studying, he's just late. Don't be too cross with him. He loves you very much.
Jane, I've got to get married.
That's what's expected of you, yes.
You did not say that, though.
I did say that, though. We'll so excited for the wedding. You're making us all so happy.
You have absolutely nothing to lose. That is a gift, and you must learn to use it.
I'm so sorry, Jane, but I have some distressing news.
I've been thinking it might be time for me to leave, sir.
In another house?
In a bookshop, sir.
It'll be your greatest book.
Once upon a time. Once upon a time. Once upon a time.
Look, again, I told Bruce specifically, I said, Bruce, don't watch it this week. It's only opening in New York and LA. We can save it for next week. It rolls out. This is just an option for you and Eric because we want to save our money. We get to watch free movies. Yay. Nope. Bruce decided to actually watch it about 30 seconds after the conversation ended. He started watching it like he does. And as we were recording this movie, Bruce is probably watching another movie. So he watches movies incessantly. So on top of that, to make matters worse, or better, I think better in general, Eric Holmes decides after a hard day's work, hey, let me just add to my 10 movies I saw this week and watch Mothering Sunday as well. I was expecting Eric and Bruce to just completely lay down and relax, and we'll get to Mothering Sunday next week. This is me, long-winded, saying these guys are hard workers. Mothering Sunday. Bruce, take it off. This is yours and Eric's segment. Does it work?
Well, I feel like Eric is going to probably be a little bit on the more negative side on this one. But, okay, Mothering Sunday. First of all, if you look up the poster on this, it's terrible. Either of the posters I saw are terrible. It makes it look like... Downton Abbey or something like that, which I understand why they did that, but it really sells this movie short, in my opinion. But it's directed by...
No, that's not your opinion. That's facts. I will say that poster is god-awful.
Yeah. It's directed by Eva Hewson, I guess I'm saying, or Husson maybe. I'm not sure if I'm saying her name right. And it basically centers around... this maid after World War II. It takes different time periods, but the main time period is after World War I. And this character Jane, played by Odessa Young, fantastically played by Odessa Young. She is amazing in this movie. She is a maid to this really rich family, and basically all but one son has died within these two rich families that are kind of interacting in most of the story. She just happens to be having an affair with the one son that remains, secretly, of course, because, she's the maid and he's, not probably expected to be kind of cavorting with the commoners, quote. But that is just kind of the basic plot. The other time periods that kind of encounter is you find out that you see her a little bit later in her life, and she's a writer. So you get the idea that she's writing about this experience, this pivotal moment, or few days or months in her life where this event happened with this kind of this love affair happened to this young man. Once again, that doesn't really give the picture of this movie. This is, and I told Eric this, and whether he enjoyed it or not, it's kind of hard to say, but your enjoyment of this movie is really if you can get into its vibe. And its vibe is very Terrence Malick-y, is what I would call it, whether that's a term or not. But it's very dreamy, very evocative, if you like that kind of thing. Beautifully shot, absolutely beautiful shot. It's very slow. Incandescent, I would say. It's spectacularly
That's a
beautiful.
huge compliment you're giving. Incandescent.
Yeah. And what is, I think, really effective about this movie, if you get into the vibe, is what this movie is really about. Is about how a person slowly becomes a writer, becomes an artist, like how a person takes their experiences in the world and that becomes something that becomes their art. And it's done in a very, very interesting and very delicate and very, it's beautiful. This is a really beautiful movie. If you get into the vibe of it, I think it's absolutely wonderful.
Bergman Island kind of vibe, meaning... Yeah, the theme.
It's a little different than Bergman Island. I think it could be better than Bergman Island, honestly.
What? Oh my god! This is a real movie. I was expecting Downton Abbey, and here's Bruce Perky. I had to look up incandescent on Google. That's a very, very big word, Bruce. We've never used incandescent in our podcast in 2 years. So you're loving this movie.
Yeah, this is surprisingly self-assured. I don't know if this is the first, or I don't know how many things this woman has directed, but this is a really self-assured movie and really beautiful movie. And I think for some people it can be really impactful. And I think that on further viewings, you can see all the little intricate threads that she's putting together in this movie. And it's done in a very, very interesting way, the way the different time periods and different events are kind of interwoven. Like, it's very fragmented, but also kind of interlaced, where things like a phone ringing has all these multiple meanings by the end of the movie. And there's a bunch of things like that. There's flowers, all kinds of stuff. This movie is amazing. I was really torn at first, and I got to give it 5 stars. I have to give this 5 stars.
5 stars. I interviewed Eva Husson back in 2015 for this movie called Bang Gang, a modern love story, I believe, if memory serves. I remember her being a really nice person. I ended up really liking the movie, but 5 stars for this movie. I have to see this. Not obviously, I will have to go with Eric's stunt 5-star banger StuntRock first before I go with Mothering Sunday, because we know the truth lies in StuntRock, and
they're almost the same, so you know.
Yeah. First of all,
interchangeable.
I'm going to tell you something, Bruce. Wizards on stage, casting spells, or finding yourself as an artist. I'm going to go with the wizard, right, Eric? Am I going to go with the wizard?
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Well, you're assuming there's not a wizard in this. I mean, come on now.
Okay, that is a great review. Thank you, Bruce. 5 stars for Mothering Sunday. I guess, again, out in theaters in New York and LA this Friday. And Eric Holmes, how dare you come in with a negative review of this movie? I want to hear what you have to say. He called it incandescent. So I want to hear what the other side of the coin is. I want to hear that.
It's not that far on the other side.
Oh, okay.
This is not a movie that I tend to gravitate towards, and it did the thing at the beginning of
I know.
where it's like the interesting thing, and then we'll flash forward or flash back. I'm like, okay, writers, fucking stop doing that. Please stop doing that. Just start the story where it needs to start and maintain interest throughout. You know, it should. Anyway, I think the cinematography and the score in this movie is doing a lot of heavy lifting, and rightfully so, because the score and the cinematography is fantastic. This movie gets a lot better about the halfway mark, where it kind of becomes almost dreamlike. Kind of where it almost feels like the story takes a back seat. Bruce mentioned Malik, like if you watch Tree of Life, it suggests things as opposed to just telling you that. And I think that also with the awesome cinematography and the great score, it helps that kind of filmmaking. So yeah, this was one of those movies where I wasn't too on board with it at first, but as it went on, I kind of, like Bruce said, if you're into that sort of thing, it kind of pulls you in. Yeah, this is a pretty good movie. Not usually my speed, but much like StuntRock, where like Bruce is 3.5 and I'm 5. I'm 3.5 on this. Bruce is 5, so that kind of makes sense.
Well, that's cool. That's a solid recommend for you. So ultimately it's a solid recommend. Sorry, Eric, and it won you over, kind of.
Yeah, the last half of this movie got really good. Also, there was a lot of dong in this.
I was going to say, I want to lowbrow it for you guys.
Yeah.
If you want lots of male prefrontal nudity.
If you want to see a lot of dick, like penis, there's a bunch of it. And you know what? 4 stars for that.
4 stars for that.
I'll give it an extra half star for the amount of dick. It's had more dick than X.
I will go on the other side if you want. I'll go on the other side if there's a lot of full frontal female nudity as well. And I said to Eric the same thing. I said, if your fetish is naked women smoking around books, I mean, you are gonna be set on this movie for sure.
Yeah, smoking cigarettes, by the way, not which would have been fine too. I'm sure there was some, of course,
sexuality and all.
This is actually this kind of has the same flavor as Benedetta, I think. Where it's got a little bit of the eroticism. It's got the love story. It's certainly a love story, and I think if you didn't like Benedetta, this might not be your speed. But if you did like Benedetta, this doesn't go as crazy as Benedetta does, but it's kind of like in the same ballpark, we'll say. And actually, this was the movie that was like, I wasn't totally in love with this. This is the movie that Greg should have watched.
Oh, this is the Greg
If
movie?
there was a
Yeah.
if there was a Greg movie on this episode, this is the Greg movie right here for
Well,
sure.
I thought my Greg movie is Benedetta, but personally, I love Benedetta. But this is no, I'm excited about Mothering Sunday. And Bruce, to your point, you mentioned Odessa Young at the beginning. I forgot the movie she did with Elizabeth. What's her name? The one Elizabeth from Mad Men. I'm blanking out. What's the actress from Mad Men? And she was in Top of the Lake. Elizabeth Moss. She was in a movie with Elizabeth Moss, and I thought Odessa Young, really interesting actress. And did she carry this movie? Her performance was she good, Bruce? Odessa, what do you think on this as a lead?
she's really good in this, but I think as a lead she's very, very good and she does hold it down. But there's a great supporting cast in this movie too. Really.
Okay, so it's all about the ensemble for this movie.
No, she's definitely the center of it. So
okay, cool. So
you got the Colin Firth, and you got the what's her name?
Shobe Derisu.
Olivia Colman. Yeah, that was what I didn't know she was in this. I think I hit you guys up like, is Olivia Colman? She looks a lot like Olivia Colman.
Yes, this movie. Okay, The Lost Daughter or Mothering Sunday, Eric Holmes. Which movie do you prefer?
They're kind of.
I know, different.
Both around the same for me.
Around the same. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't hate either one. I think if I'll go with this one because there was more dick in this one than there was in the Lost Daughter. Oh wait, The Lost Daughter. Never mind. I'm thinking of I was thinking of the You're Not
the favorite.
My Mother.
Oh, You Are Not My Mother. Oh, got it. Got it.
But
yes.
yeah, this is probably in the same wheelhouse as Lost Daughter as well.
Okay, so that is Mothering Sunday, 3.5 stars from Eric Holmes and 5 stars for Bruce Perky. Again, in New York and LA this Friday. Props to Eric Holmes and Bruce Perky for just really working hard this week and getting this movie in under the gun. It has a further rollout the following week, but again, New York, LA this Friday. Now we are on to our recommends. Sort of rewind recommend kind of thing. This is a big movie. It's the Ty West film X. On our Cinematics Facebook group, fellow podcaster Andrew Martin from Andrew Watches Movies just completely praised the heck out of this movie. I think he said it's one of his top, or if not top, favorite horror film of all time, I guess, or maybe recently. I might be misquoting him, but there's a lot of love for this movie, and what better way to actually review X than two podcasters, reviewers who are steeped in the horror genre. Let's start with Eric Holmes first. Ty West, X, you saw it over the weekend. There's a lot of praise. Is the praise warranted?
I think so for the most part. I think it was a little overhyped for me. Because I knew nothing going in. I avoided everything about it. I just heard that a lot of people really dug it. And I was like, well, fuck. I don't know anything about it now. I'm just gonna keep it that way and then just go into the theater and as cold as I can. And I guess I was expecting a little more, but because it's basically just a slasher movie. It's got a little something more to say than that. But as a slasher goes, it's a really good one, I think. Certainly stylized. It's got
Eric, can you see why it was overloved, a little bit maybe overrated? You still liked it, you still enjoyed the movie, but why all the craze for it? Do you have a theory?
I don't even want to say it's overrated. I think with all the people, how much they were praising it, I think I built it up more in my head because I didn't understand what it was that what it was they loved about it. It'd be like if you watched Texas Chainsaw Massacre for the first time, the original one. You would expect it's going to say something about blah blah blah, when the reality is it's just a really well done slasher movie. And that's what X is. It's got a little bit of Boogie Nights because it's people going to make a porn. One of the guys is like, I'm gonna make a real art film. So it's got that little bit of Boogie Nights in it. It's got some really good characters in it. I guess one of the things that threw me off is that, and I don't usually care about stuff like this, but I know some people might. It kind of does the body shaming thing. Look at these old people. How could they possibly want to have sex with each other? Oh, look how gross it is that two old people are having sex. And I don't know about the old guy, but I know the old woman is one of the younger actresses in makeup. And so that's kind of, it was like was it Tucker and Dale versus Evil? It's like it was pretty lighthearted through most of it. And then they got that last scene where dude punches some random woman, drags her away after hearing, yeah, just go out and take what you want. I'm like, that's the message you're giving it then the movie. All right, whatever. So
Just rubbed you the wrong way, that little element to it.
it just seemed odd, because the one of the points of this movie is that the old couple, they're in the twilight years of their lives and they don't feel sexy anymore. The old lady, she wants to feel sexy again. She wants to have sex with her husband again, but he can't, because if he's like, oh, if I do, I'm gonna have a heart attack and die right here. And so it had messages of that, and then it feels like it undercut its message a bit by having a scene that was meant to disgust viewers by just having them like it. Maybe I'm the bigot, and I saw it that way when it wasn't meant that way, but it felt like it was playing it that way, like, oh god, these old people are having sex, how gross. And it seemed to undercut the overall message that the movie was trying to go for. So I think it was a failure on that point. But that's one scene, and so as a slasher, just on its face as that, I think it's pretty good, and I think it does deserve the praise that it's getting. It's just that one little bit is a little
iffy.
I don't know, it felt off to me.
Bruce, what do you think? What do you say about that scene, the overall movie?
I get what he's saying about that scene. I'm kind of in the middle on it, and I kind of want to watch it again to kind of really get the feel for that scene. I feel like it's trying to kind of play us with that scene too, to kind of almost like pushing it in your face to say, like, why are you grossed out? You know what I mean? I think it is playing around with that, but I also can see how you might see it as kind of against its own message. But at the same time, it's also saying, like, well, we are going to make a horror movie here, so we're going to be gross sometimes. So that's part of also the weird combo platter this does, is it goes a little bit meta and a little bit artsy and a little bit thematic, but it also doesn't fail to give you a horror movie, which a lot of times these movies won't do both. They'll give you one or the other, but they won't give you it gives you a slasher movie on top of all the other art stuff. I really enjoyed this quite a bit. I liked its oddness. I really absolutely appreciated the performances, and I loved the fact that we had, like, usually in these like slasher movies, not usually, but a lot of times, the characters that are going to die are all pretty much just kind of generic. And they really do give you time in here to like know all of your characters, and they all have interesting stories, and you kind of care about them all in one way or another. And there are some such great stylish things in this. Like, for example, the opening shot itself was fantastic. Where the opening shot is the farmhouse, the Texas Chainsaw style farmhouse, in that cropped, aspect ratio. And you're like, oh no, here we go, A24 cropped aspect ratio. And it literally is just the shadows from the door of the barn. And as the camera pulls forward, the farm doors, because you're going forward, the doors go wider, and all of a sudden now we're widescreen. And just something as simple as that, as the filmmaker saying, like, you know what? We know what we're doing here. We know what you're thinking, and we're going to play with that, and we're also going to give you some good stuff. I think this is just a fantastic horror movie. For my taste, I love the oddness and the strangeness of it. I love the audacity of it. I love the style is great. It's fun. I thought it was fun. It has one of my favorite horror moments so far of the year, which is I'm not going to say what happens exactly, but it's the first major killing that's near some headlights of a vehicle. And I thought that was absolutely fantastic. And the post-credit sequence, which tells us about upcoming things, really makes me think that there's some interesting developments in this, I guess, series of movies.
Maybe a trilogy, right? That should be interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is X. What is your rating, Bruce, on X, now playing in theaters?
I was going to go 4.5, but I really liked it, and I really had a good time, so I'm going to go 5.
5 stars for Bruce Perky on X. And Eric Holmes, what do you give X?
I'll probably go 4 stars on this. I might have been 5. Wow. I think if they would have focused more on the message that they were going for and was a little more attentive to that, I guess this could have easily been a 5 star. And yeah, stay after the credits. I'm definitely down for any sequels or prequels or anything else they got going in this, because like, even though that one bit didn't work for me, I think overall it's a good movie, and I'm excited to see more.
Okay, 4 stars from Eric Holmes and 5 stars for Bruce Perky for the film X. Next up is a recommendation from Eric Holmes. Kirk Douglas. We've covered Kirk Douglas a bunch of times in this podcast. We haven't covered Kirk Douglas maybe in the last 7 or 8 months. This is a movie called The Strange Love of Martha Ivers. The movie was released. When was it released? It was released in
1946.
1946. Thank you, Eric Holmes. And the plot line is, quote, a man is reunited with his childhood friend and her husband who believe he knows the truth about the death of her rich aunt years earlier. The film stars Barbara Stanwyck, Van Heflin, and Elizabeth Scott. This seems like a movie that is right up my alley. And, of course, it stars Kirk Douglas. You did this with a watch with our fellow friend Angie Clark. How did the watch go? How did the movie go?
It went really well. This is actually Kirk Douglas's first movie, and right out of the gate, he's got a banger. So, so basically, Barbara Stanwyck plays Martha, Kirk Douglas plays Walter, and there's a bit at the beginning where there's a altercation on the stairway. And Barbara Stanwyck hits her aunt over the head and she falls down the stairs and she dies. And the uncle comes in and says, what happened? And, the front door is open. They're like, someone came in and killed her. I don't know. And then uncle's like, okay, when the cops get here, tell them exactly that. Because uncle knew that they're full of shit. Anyway, then it cuts forward like, 20, 30 years later, however far. And now Barbara Stanwyck's, Kirk Douglas and Van Heflin.
Yes, Van Heflin.
Sam. Yeah. Van Heflin's kind of the lead character. Actually, not kind of. He is the lead character of this. He's like if I understood it correctly, he's like a private detective, and he's just kind of, going about things. And he's meets up with Martha and Walter. It's like, hey, I knew you guys when I was kids. And then it's kind of a film noir, but more of a romance movie. Like, so you get the film noir of the murder that happened that was covered up, and then you get the romance because Martha and Walter are married, and Sam, played by Van Heflin, he's got a thing for Tony, played by Elizabeth Scott, who is fucking awesome in this.
She's a great actress, Elizabeth Scott.
She's great, and exactly, yeah, she's great. But he's got a thing for his childhood crush, I guess you would call her. And so there's like little love triangle things going on, along with bits about that murder that we saw at the beginning kind of start to play out. And the end of this movie, I'm not going to give away the end. The end of this movie is fucking awesome. Like,
really
fucking awesome.
Okay.
This is probably one of and it's not like a big twist. It's just like one of those. You ever see a movie where it's like it ends the exact way it should, and it just it turns the knot just a little bit, and it's like, oh god, that's so good. Oh my god, that's so good. There's a scene, when you watch it, you'll know, but there's a scene with hands. We'll just say a close up of hands. And it's it crushed me, and that was it. I'm like, I fucking love this movie. Good job.
Wow. Okay. The Strange Love of Martha Ivers. What's your rating on this film, Eric? What a great find.
This one's easily 5 stars. It was probably like a 4.
Is this Christmas? Because you and Bruce are 5-starring everything.
Everybody.
Hey, I can't help it that we just keep watching bangers all this week. It's not my fault, but I'm happy about it. This was like a pretty decent film noir romance, but that ending just sealed it for me. It was so good. The cinematography in this, there's because the cinematography is not flashy, but they do some stuff like, if you're paying attention to that, it's like, wow, that's a really good shot. Oh wow, they staged that shot really well, and there's a bunch of it. Director Louis Milestone. I don't know what else he has done.
He's done a lot of movies, and he's a director that I've pretty much ignored, and I can't wait for us to actually, probably down the road, who knows, maybe we might come across some more Louis Milestone films.
Yeah, he kind of, at least with this movie, as good as this movie was, it's reminded me when I first watched a Jules Dassin movie, which the first one I saw was Rafifi. I think Rafifi's a lot better than this, but this one had one of those, like, I'm gonna have to look at this Louis Milestone movie, because this thing is just fantastic.
He directed
And,
Ocean's 11 in 1960. That's one of his biggest movies. 1960, Ocean's 11. Not bad.
but yeah, this movie is high recommended, especially if you want to watch like an old film noir or an old romance. This has like, it does the best of both genres, I think.
Eric, when you saw this is Kirk Douglas's first role, can you tell from watching him in this movie, even though it's Van Heflin, he's the lead, and you mentioned how good Elizabeth Scott is, and obviously Barbara Stanwyck is Barbara Stanwyck. Could you actually, watching him, could you realize that he would become Kirk Douglas?
Yeah, he plays a fucking slime ball in this. Yeah, you could tell because as I'm watching it, I was like kind of watching that is this is Kirk Douglas's debut. I could see like a studio producer going, who's that guy that played Walter? Some Cameron Douglas. I don't know. It was like, oh, his name's Kirk Douglas. You know, he's gonna be a star someday. Whatever he wants to do, go picture, kid. You know, whatever. But yeah, he wasn't. This wasn't his best. You know, this wasn't the best acting he's done. But I mean, for a debut, it is really fucking good.
Okay, that is just. Where did you see this? Did you rent this? How did you and Angie see it?
I'd say it's playing on YouTube. It's a 1946 movie, and they got like 100 different versions of it on YouTube. I'm sure it's streaming everywhere.
And you guys, well, how did you guys see it? Did you just count down 3, 2, 1, and you guys?
So we'll go on the Facebook Messenger. I'll just put up a post. And by the way, if anyone else on Cinematics wants to hit me up and say, hey, I want to do a watch along with blah blah blah, I'm down with it because it's so fun to do. I've done it with you guys before, like we're watching movies and just kind of commenting on the movie as it's going. But yeah, basically pick a movie and then get the movie ready, okay, play, and then hit play. You're probably a couple seconds off, but that's fine.
Okay, very cool.
But yeah, it's fun to do, and this was a great movie to do it too as well. Yeah, good stuff. Again, check it out.
Eric Holmes, watch it with our good buddy Angie Clark, and Angie liked this movie as well. It's probably her first time seeing it. Did she end up really digging the movie? Was it whose choice was this? Whose idea was this?
I think this was mine because the last time we did it, she had just seen Kimmy, and she's like, yeah, check that out. I'm like, I'll check it out. She's like, check it out now. I'm like, okay. and so that was the first one we did, and then we kept meaning to do it again, and we did it with this one, and we couldn't figure out. And we're like, I haven't done a Kirk Douglas movie in a while. Might as well do his first movie if it's available, and it was. So that's what we watched.
So that is The Strange Love of Martha Ivers. Again, high marks from Angie Clark, 5 stars from Eric Holmes. Eric Holmes is giving you guys, Find Your Film listeners, Cinematics listeners, the open invitation. If you want to see a movie with him, hit him up on hamslime@gmail.com. Hamslime@gmail.com.
Or just message me on Facebook. That's probably the easiest way to do it.
Yeah. You can do that. You don't ever do that with me. I don't like watching movies with anyone. So, Bruce, do you agree with me? Don't ever watch a movie with Bruce. What do you say?
No, I was just gonna say you should have said I don't like watching movies. Hard stop there.
Okay, that was mean and true. Mean and true. Very good, very good. Bruce,
you only watched one this week, right? I mean,
okay.
I don't know.
The dagger is deep. I am bleeding. I'm very, very sad. The good news is we're almost done with this episode because the good news, not that we're done, but the last movie we're going to be covering is, before we cover movies though, what do I always forget every single week, Bruce? I forget who is the fourth person in this party. What is Pete?
Peta Abita.
Peta
Abita. A Peta will abita you if you don't watch out. Peta Abita. Drop that bita.
Who's in the box? Oh, what's in the box? You lie! No! What's in the fucking box?
All right, guys, we are back. Thank you again, Peter Bader from Middle Class Film Class. You know how Bruce is. He's trilingual, so he just plays around with the languages a little bit.
I'm almost unilingual.
Very, very good. HangoverSquare is a film that I've been banging the drum for Eric and Bruce to see. Look, here's the thing. I saw it. It was on YouTube. It was free. Bruce was talking about a movie. I think he was talking about the outfit, that he gave it 5 stars. And who knows, maybe down the line, if it caught him at a certain time, he might have given it a lower rating. This is one of these movies where I feel like Hangover Square, it was middle Saturday afternoon. I was craving a noir, and I just went berserk over this movie. Let's see what Eric Holmes and Bruce Purkey have to say about Hangover Square, this week's box pick. That's my pick for Hangover Square. Bruce, start off. What is it about? Your thoughts on Hangover?
Okay. Hangover Square, 1945, directed by John Brom, stars Laird Krieger, I believe it is, as George Harvey Bone. He's a composer, and he's got this strange ailment. He has this thing where when he gets, they have like they have one of those cockamamie like psychological explanations, like at the end of Psycho, where it's like when he has too much stress and he's too focused on one thing, something will set him off, and he basically goes into this like amnesia, like zombie mode, and he kills people, and it usually ends with fire, and then he wakes up, he doesn't know what happened, and it almost has this like where it gets all fuzzy in films, like almost like Vertigo or something. Speaking of Vertigo, Bernard Herrmann is the score of this, and we'll talk a little more about that as we discuss this. Here's this composer. He keeps having these blackouts, and then people keep ending up dead, and he's worried that he might be doing it, and everyone's like, no, you didn't. But the cops are kind of curious, but then it keeps looking like he's not the killer. Meanwhile, there's this subplot of he's trying to finish composing this classical piece of music, and at the same time, this dance hall woman and her guy are trying to kind of scam him, pretend to be interested in him, and get him to write music for her to have songs. And that's another subplot. All of this is fine. It's pretty good. It's a pretty fun noir with this weird element of him continuing to do these strange murders and cover them up in really interesting ways, I will say. And we're not going to talk about how that happens, but there's a really fun thing with the Guy Fawkes Day celebration. It's pretty amazing. But for my purposes, and this is where Eric's going to come in and say what he thinks of it, for my take on this, the final act of this movie really elevates it to the next level, because there's this whole thing about him performing his musical work, which he's finally going to, unleash on everybody as all these things are coming to a head. And the score, or the work that he comes up with, is Bernard Herrmann's music as well. And the way it's performed and the way it's filmed and the way it's used to accent the action while they're performing it, and the way it's used to portray his mental state at the same time, it's quite amazing. And the finale of this movie is gangbusters awesome.
It is gangbusters awesome. Again, the lead is Laird Krieger. And Bruce and I were talking about this. I don't know how many movies he made. Maybe this might be his last movie after this, but he died really way too young. And you watch him in this movie and you wonder, wow, it would be interesting to see if he had lived and done more films. Do you agree with this, Bruce, regarding Laird Krieger? Was he an interesting actor for you?
He was an interesting actor. I mean, he wasn't like the normal leading man looking kind of guy. I could see him playing a lot of like more like tough guy kind of roles, or maybe mobsters or something, because he doesn't have that kind of narrow refined features leading man kind of look to him. But he was kind of a villain in this too, so it kind of made sense. But I liked his personality a lot, and I thought I read that he, I'm gonna look it up while Eric is talking, because I think I have some good trivia on Laird Krieger as well.
Okay, very cool. Eric Holmes, I'm a huge fan of Hangover Square. It just went completely, again, like Bruce says, that ending is bonkers awesome. Wondering if you were on that same track with me and Bruce on this.
Yeah. In fact, I thought that this movie, as I'm watching it, I could not get out of my head, I wish Tim Burton would remake this. Like that would bring Tim Burton back to like the Edward Scissorhands, Ed Wood, like that kind of Tim Burton. This movie, it almost felt like Tim Burton took a time machine back to the 40s and was like, yeah, I'm gonna do this weird movie. And this was really good.
It's a great call on that.
It was I still like the Martha Ivers a little better, but again, this was another movie where the ending was really great, because
Martha Ivers, in fairness though, Eric, Martha Ivers seems like a bigger, grander production. I think this one is, I can understand why Martha Ivers is way more respected than Hangover Square, because Hangover Square, like you said, still a good movie, but it's still sort of like has an indie small flavor to it, I guess.
Yeah. It does. I mean, there's certainly I think they came out around the same time, and this one's definitely a lot more rough around the edges, but it's still really good. And I also got kind of experiment and terror vibes to it, because this is a straight up horror movie from that time. And it goes a lot darker. I mean, the opening scene where he murders the guy. Dude, that's such a good scene. It's just that point of view with the hand with the
And you're petrified because you're watching what this movie was made way back when, and they were able to get away with that.
Yeah.
Right, so
and not to give away the ending, but the that shot that they linger on, how's that actor not dead?
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
They don't have CGI back then.
Nope.
Like they had to shoot that. And I get like Bruce said, there's a lot of fire involved. But when you have fire, you have smoke. And when you have smoke, it becomes difficult to breathe. And if you're on a set and there's smoke, like there's certain. That's one of the cool things about watching older movies like this. When you have scenes like that, I'm assuming you guys probably get some of this, or anyone will get something like this. You watch that going right away, they had to do this in real life. They had to do it relatively safely. But how did they do it safely? Because it looks dangerous as fuck. And I don't know how the actors walked away from this.
It's amazing. And also with all the millions of dollars that we have in CGI and so many things we can do with cinema, you talk about terrifying moments. The ending of this is terrifying cinematically. It's inspiring, and you're thinking about how much did it cost to make that. With like you guys have always beat the drum on the importance of practical effects. It's terrifying with that budget, and it's hard even with the millions of dollars. You can't make a film as terrifying like that in the end. And sometimes even with a movie like what's that movie with Fritz Lang directed? He directed that movie M. You can have a floating balloon in black and white be more terrifying than a sequence, that's made for millions of dollars. It's just pure cinema, I think.
But also like movies like this, and like Quentin Tarantino obviously talks a lot about film. He talks a lot about practical effects. But I don't think he ever, and not that I'm going to explain it better, I'll probably fuck this up too, but I think what he gets at, he never says, is that when you don't have CGI, you can't wave your hand at it. When you don't have digital, you can't wave your hand like, Superman was flying because CGI. You don't, that tool's there, and you can do anything with it. It's a great tool and you can do anything with it, but that's the problem, isn't it? Because you can do anything to it, there's no wonder. So when you go back to movies like before they had CGI, you watch this thing and it's like watching a magic trick. It's like, I know that there's a trick there. I just don't know what it is. And when there's CGI involved, it's like, oh, I know how they did. They went in the computer and did the computer thing. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. But that's what goes on in your head nowadays. When you go back to older movies and you see amazing things like the ending of this, you're just like, how the fuck did they pull that off and not kill the actor? It doesn't make any sense to me.
Now, as much as I love HangoverSquare, this movie is like a 4.5 star to 5-star movie. My question to you, Bruce and Eric, is you guys were talking about the ending, but I want to hear your final ratings on HangoverSquare. Is the rest of the movie just almost as good as the ending? We'd love to hear your final ratings. Bruce, let's start off with you.
I think I'll go 4 stars. I think the rest of the movie for me isn't quite as great, although the final half is pretty darn good. So I'd say that maybe the first half is about a 3-star and the last half is 5 stars. So yeah, I'd say I balance out at 4-star. But can I give you the little? I looked up the thing on Laird Krieger.
Yes.
It is actually really interesting. So apparently he found the book that this was based on and he really loved it. And he brought it to the studio and they were like, okay, we're going to make it. And he wanted to, they were going to have him as the star, but he didn't want to be typecast as a villain. So he refused. So they suspended him and they hired another actor. And then he got so angry that he eventually was able to take back the part. But then check this out. He took back the part and he was so obsessed with it that oh no, let me find this part. He embarked on an amphetamine-based crash diet to lose weight for the role, which ultimately led to his premature death from heart attack after the filming concluded.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
So he died right after they finished filming this.
Oh my gosh. That is a direct parallel to
so that wasn't a special effect then.
Yeah, right? So right. That's just crazy. This movie is like weird and cursed and all that kind of. I mean, it's
just he literally gave it his all for this movie. And Linda Darnell, one of the leads in this movie, years later, she perished in a fire as well. But that is an interesting story regarding Laird Krieger. HangoverSquare. You can actually watch it on YouTube. It's out on Blu-ray. I believe it's out on Blu-ray via Kino. I could be wrong. I remember trying to actually order it online and go, oh, it's only $9 or $10. And I clicked on the buy link and it says out of stock. But anyways, I definitely can't wait to watch HangoverSquare and order it on Blu-ray. Before we talk about Blu-rays and all that stuff, Eric, what did you and Bruce recently purchase a week ago? And maybe down the line, you guys might be talking about it soon down the road. Have you been able to check out the Blu-ray that both of you purchased recently?
I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know what.
I have no
see
idea
something.
what you're talking about.
It's called. I think it's called The Long Walk. It's written in. It's directed by Maddie Doe, and I believe it's written by her husband, Christopher Larson. Wow, there's a slipcase in the cover. Wow, beautiful, Maddie Doe. Oh, how. Eric Holmes, you guys are going to be talking about it soon down the road. How is the Blu-ray so far? The packaging, is it Vinegar Syndrome? Did they do a good job on it?
Oh, I mean, yeah, of course it is. And what's extra fun is it does have a recipe for a drink. And
have you tried it, Eric Holmes? Have you concocted? No,
it has the drink has some ingredients that I needed to seek out. That aren't stuff that I normally have here. But on Facebook, Maddie Doe, I posted that I got the thing, and they're like, enjoy a meal. I was like, watch a movie and enjoy a drink, and then like whoever does the long walk Twitter thing was like, enjoy a meal too. I'm like, well, that's not in here, but I'll whip up something. Maddie Doe's like, check, I got you. And she posted a TikTok of her cooking this like cucumber chilies, and basically she posted a TikTok of another recipe. I'm like, well, I guess that's what I'm making then.
Okay,
because that looks fucking delicious.
Very, very cool. Bruce, how's that Blu-ray? Have you? I think you just recently got it, so you probably haven't opened up The Long Walk as of yet.
Yeah, I haven't got all the special details, but I know we are planning on a special little mini video project based on it as well that we're going to be doing.
Oh, who knows? Again, The Long Walk is a movie that all three of us here over at Find Your Film are championing. I gave a screener link to Anderson Cow, and hopefully he ends up going on that long walk as well. Such a beautiful, beautiful movie. Check out our interview with Maddie Doe as well in our respective YouTube channels. Before we go, and before I forget, we have to figure out not what's in the box, but what movie is Dean Koontz, our Dean Koontz wallet watch pick of March, the final days of March, the Ides of March, Eric Holmes. Please make it an interesting Brian De Palma film, or a film from John Frankenheimer, or who knows what.
Before I get to that, I didn't get my star rating for HangoverSquare.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes, Hangover, my fault.
But you know what? I'll go with Bruce, 4 stars. And then
4 stars. Good.
Although I think this might have been higher had I not seen Experiment in Terror. If you haven't watched Experiment in Terror, watch it. That movie's fucking awesome.
Okay, Experiment in Terror. Yes.
So last week I was supposed to do my Dean Koontz wallet wallies, and I forgot what it was. The movie I was going to pick was Nerdland, because we did Windfall. Andrew Kevin Walker wrote that, and he wrote Nerdland. I hadn't seen it, and it's like, oh, this will be perfect. But this is the following week. We're not, so I was like, this week we're doing StuntRock. So let's do something that makes a little more sense with StuntRock. And Greg, you're gonna fucking hate this. I know you're gonna hate this movie.
Going to. Yeah, no,
but some listeners are gonna listen to this, go, yes, fuck yes. We're gonna do the Gwar movie Skullhead Face.
Yes,
which is streaming on YouTube. It was either going to be that or Phallus in Wonderland, and I think Skullhead Face is probably the better of the two. I think they might have like 2 other ones other than those ones, but
and you could always supplement it with Gwar and Nardwar talking to each other.
Yeah.
Oh, is there an actual video of Gwar and Nardwar talking to Gwar? That'd be interesting.
I would be amazed if there's not. There is one of him talking to Thor. I know that much.
Oh, very cool. I got to check that video out.
And yes. Not only does Gwar Skullhead Face match up with
StuntRock?
StuntRock. As we're recording this, what's the date today?
It's the 23rd, I believe.
March 23rd, 2014 is the day that we lost David Brockie, otherwise known as Oderus Urungus. So this also goes with StuntRock, but it's also as a tribute to remember great front man. And I met him twice after Guar shows, and he was always nice to me. And he always actually pretty much everyone in Guar. If you go see him live, I've met the band members after the shows, and some of the slaves, like the people that air quote slaves in they're all good people, at least the ones that I've met. And so it's good to honor them. And we're going to remember David Brockie. Greg, you're probably going to hate this movie.
It's a tribute. I'm excited. That's an idea. It's just to expand our horizon. So who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe I might even like it more than Bruce. So you'll be surprised.
But
it's called Skullhead Face. Is that it? Skullhead.
Yeah,
Face.
Skullhead Face. I'll put up a link. Maybe there's because they used to have them on VHS, and good luck finding those. But you can find it on YouTube. I think. I don't know if they're legit sources, but they're sources for sure. And I think I want to know how many listeners are excited about this as I am, because it's been for fucking ever since I've seen any of these.
Okay, that should be really awesome. I'm really excited. Also, this was a very, very good show. I really enjoyed it because you know why? I wasn't reviewing movies. I was actually listening to Eric and Bruce, and they had some really great opinions on all these movies. So I'm so excited. Maybe I think listeners, if you start a petition for me to never review movies again and just have Bruce and Eric do it, please, by all means, email us and tell us what you think. This is a really strong show. Before we get out of here, Eric Holmes, final thoughts.
Check out Skullhead Face. Check out Experiment in Terror. Check out a bunch of movies we talked about. Even the bad ones, because just because we don't like a movie doesn't mean you won't.
Yeah. Yeah, StuntRock and
like we didn't really care for You're Not My Mother. That might be a movie you watch and go, what the hell are they thinking? I fucking love this movie. I love Windfall. People hate it. I love Don't Look Up. People hate it. So you never know. Just because we don't like something doesn't mean you won't as well.
Remember, you always have to qualify Don't Look Up with Oscar-nominated film. Don't
I
Look
really hope
Up.
that doesn't win. I cannot deal with the backlash that would follow if that won. I mean, it deserves it, and I'd be happy for them if it did, but the backlash would just be unbearable.
Okay, speaking of unbearable, any witticisms from Bruce Perky, anything you're going to leave us with at the end of this episode, at the end of this week?
Yes, I have 2 bits of band-related wisdom. Bit number 1 is, if you're going to go see Guar, make sure to put on your finest outfit. I would suggest a suit, maybe a tuxedo. It's not really looked upon kindly to come there just dressed down in t-shirts and jeans. That's not acceptable for a Guar concert. Bit of advice number 2, the only way to properly celebrate backstage after a great show is to feed spaghetti to a dog wearing a wizard hat.
Okay, we love StuntRock, and one of these days I'll watch it. You know what? I'm sold on this movie. We will see you guys next week on Find Your Film, StuntRock Forever. See you guys.